I'm gonna RIP the city, everybody better know. March the banner of this county every time I'm coming home. When they start to play my music,
All right, my name's Rob Wessels. You are watching Portland Metro Records presents Off the Record, and today we have a huge guest. I didn't even put it out on Facebook because I didn't know if it was real and I didn't know if it was going to happen. We've got Beyonce's band leader, the Beyonce, her band leader, Miss BB McGill.
Hi.
Thank
Thanks,
you and
Rob.
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So you've been off tour for a while.
Yeah, just since 2014, the last tour I did. This is the first tour I have not done with Beyonce in 10 years.
Wow.
The last tour was the Jay-Z and Beyonce on the Run tour, which ended September 2014. Had a little break. During the break, I was like, at some point you gotta do your own thing. You can't just get rolling with something, get into the flow, and then stop everything, drop it, and go run off to tour with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to keep doing my own thing, and I'm loving it.
So BB, I got to ask you, what led you and your dog Rocket to land in Portland, of all places?
Well, there's a story behind it, and I have to say, I grew up in Denver, Colorado. I moved to California, and not many years after living there, there was this Northridge earthquake, which really scared me. There was freeways collapsed and people dying, and it was really scary. And I was like, I got to get out of this LA. I can't deal with earthquakes. So where can I go where there's a music scene? And this was back in the grunge days, Soundgarden and Alice in Chains. So I was like, Seattle. So I read a little bit about Seattle in a magazine. I was like, no, that's not my scene. It just didn't seem like me. Right under Seattle was a little paragraph about Portland, Oregon. And I had honestly never heard of Portland, Oregon. It sounded like some really country hick town in the South. But I read about it, and it talked about its natural beauty, and it had a music scene, and they're very health conscious, and it just really resonated with me. So I said, I'm moving to Portland. So 15 years, I was telling everybody, I'm moving to Portland, Oregon. They're like, why are you moving to Portland? I'm moving to Portland. So when I got the Beyonce gig in 2006, as soon as I got the tour schedule, I went and I was like, I hope Portland's on there. Portland was on there.
Nice.
And I was like, that's where I'm moving. And I'd never even been there before. So as soon as we got here, I just knew it.
Yeah.
And when that tour was done, I went home, or I actually came to Portland. I found my house. I went home, went back on tour. And then when that tour's over, I moved here.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was 7.5 years ago.
Wow, well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
That's awesome. Rocket seems pretty happy.
Yeah, I love this place.
So in your travels, because you've literally been around the world, primarily you're known for guitar, but there's so much more that you do out there. You're a yoga teacher, and you experiment in whole foods and special recipes for clean living. What drew you to all that? Was it the touring that drew you to that, or was that kind of in its formation before then?
Yeah, it's just always been a part of my blueprint, I think, since I was very young. I was always into trying to have a garden and eating healthy. When I lived in Denver, we had our first vegetarian restaurant that opened, and I was like, Mom, let's go. And I'm in high school. I'm like 12 or 13 or junior high school. So I was always drawn to that sort of thing. And actually, I started doing yoga long before I started touring. I was always a musician, but I started doing yoga in 1996. And so it was just something that, thank goodness, I had that practice coming into this high-level pop music, mainstream music touring, because that was my foundation.
Physically, it's so people don't realize what it takes to tour, because you're not living a normal life or even sleeping on a normal schedule.
Absolutely.
Tell them a little bit about what it's like, because did you go by plane or bus or both?
Well, it depends on where you are. When we're in Europe or out of the country, you almost have to go by plane, and many times it's a private plane. It's just too far in between. So planes, trains, automobiles, buses, really nice tour buses. But, especially for someone like Beyonce, who has constantly toured. A lot of artists don't have that privilege. She constantly tours, so you got to keep up with her. And when you're out on the road, you can't have a show and then have 2 days off. People are like, wow, great, do you get to see work? No, we don't get to see, we're working. If you have a band and a crew on the road, you're losing money if you take days off. So you got to keep them working as many days as you can, and a lot of times it was 5 or 6 times a week. And that means sometimes getting up in the morning at 5 or 6 o'clock to take your luggage down so that they can come pick it up. Then you got to go back to your room. Then you come back down at maybe 7 and meet everyone, go to the airport, you know, fly to the next place, or you're on a bus. You leave a show. After show, you leave on the bus to drive to the next city. So, you know, honestly, if you're into partying and all that, you're not going to last very long. And I have to say, I've had a really long career of doing this, where a lot of people do it for a year, 2, maybe 3. They burn out, or they lose their grounding, their ego gets, I don't know. But having a yoga practice to ground me, to keep me focused and aware of what's important, and eating well to nourish my body, you know, and keep me emotionally stable. You know, if you're eating trash and not sleeping well, you're gonna not be able to handle emotionally a lot of things that go on the road. So
in your travels, I mean, I know you didn't get a lot of downtime, but having literally traveled the world, you seem like a person that seems ready to embrace different cultures and foods. What were some of your favorite moments out on tour? Do you have some of those memories you can share?
Definitely Ethiopia was incredible. It's nothing like what people were brought up to believe in the Western world. It's big head and big bellies and skinny kids starving. Yeah, there is that. But there's beautiful people and beautiful food, and that just blew me away. We all loved Ethiopia. Also, there's Egypt, which our hotel was on the Red Sea. So my room, when I opened up the door, there's the sand and there's the Red Sea.
Wow.
And I'm doing yoga on the Red Sea, which you read about is growing up as a kid, right?
I think you'll never ever experience
Oh my
it.
God. And then I went scuba diving in the Red Sea for the first time. Not scuba diving, but snorkeling. So moments like that, you know, there's always the south of France. Australia was amazing, but I've been around the world multiple times, and those were my favorite places.
That's great.
Yeah.
I read a couple interviews and seen a couple interviews where you've talked about pursuing that inner balance. What drew you to that? Was that something that was always innate within you, or is that something that you had to seek out after kind of experiencing life a bit?
Well, I think I was born. I was born a special child.
That's
you know,
cool.
us artists, when we're born, we're very sensitive. We're very creative and passionate, but we're also very sensitive. So in order to keep myself balanced and not let my head get wandering off into, I just needed to be balanced. I learned that at a very young age, that I was sensitive.
Yeah.
So once I discovered yoga, it was like putting a big pole in the ground.
Your tuning fork, so to speak.
Yeah, just stabilizing it. And I always wanted to have that. So it really just comes from knowing what it's like to feel bad, knowing what it's like to feel a little crazy and out of it, and then knowing what it's like to feel good and energized and clear. So I choose to feel good and clear and grounded and stable,
Good
energized. So I'm going to do what it takes to be there
stay
all the
there.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you come across guitar? What brought you to that point?
You know, like my beginnings of playing guitar. I was really young, and you know, my older brother and sister listened to Earth, Wind and Fire, and the Isley Brothers and Santana and Al Di Meola.
Yeah.
So we had a basement, and we'd be down there playing pool with the parents and listening to music. And so I would grab a pool stick and do this.
Everybody does that.
Yeah, right. Everybody does
Yeah.
that. So my dad one day, he's like, "Do you want to play guitar?" And I never thought of it. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah. So they put me in private lessons. I took lessons in school. Then I started playing in my own punk band. I was in the citywide marching band. I was in the jazz band. And, you know, through junior high and high school, part of high school, I played music in every band. So that's kind of how it came
That's
about.
cool. So you were, your first band was a punk band, you said?
It was kind of a, yeah.
Do you remember what it was called?
Well,
I'll share my first band name if you share yours.
Well, yeah, it was kind of punk, but then we got more into top 40. This is so stupid. It wasn't my idea.
No, this is awesome.
It's called Drury Lane.
Drury Lane.
Yeah.
Hey, my first band was called Beer Noise.
Beer Noise?
Because there was a lot of people drinking and we made a lot of noise.
Well, that sounds more punk than mine, Drury Lane.
I love it. That's awesome. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, how, in finding your style and finding your elements to guitar, as I was listening, and I know with Beyonce, a lot of it's kind of rote to a degree, but I notice you have a very fierce tone in your lead playing.
Oh.
Where does that come from? Is that something that is kind of like laid out for you, like you're going to get these tones, or do you actually come in and kind of put that special sauce on there?
Well, what's the really cool thing about playing with Beyonce is that her music in the recordings doesn't really have guitar. It's all a lot of layered keyboards and programmed sounds.
Yeah, I had to really go in and look and listen and find clips. I'm like, wow, she's got like this kind of almost Paul Gilbert kind of ferocity to her playing.
Oh,
and it was like, this is cool. And I was kind of floored by it. I really didn't expect it. So I was wondering how much of it was Beyonce or how much of it was you.
Yeah, and Beyonce doesn't play guitar.
Nice.
So with there being no guitar in her produced albums and tracks, I got to come in and create my own thing.
You got to be the interpreter.
I did everything I wanted to do.
Wow.
Yeah, she never once said, I want you to do this or that. I came in, I came up with my own parts. I created my sounds with my guitar tech. He programmed them, but I told him what I wanted. So I don't want to program. That's too much.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons I really enjoyed it, because I got to do what I wanted. And then she loved to give me solos.
Well,
like,
why wouldn't she? I mean,
well, yeah,
I've seen your solo spots. I would give you a solo spot every single song.
Dude, but it would make me nervous because she used to give me a lot of solos. I'm like, another solo? Like, I'm going to run out of things to play.
Well, you heard the girl sing. She has to breathe.
She has to breathe. She does have to breathe. She does have to breathe. So it's a cool gig, for sure.
That's great. Yeah, because I know, like, within country music, I have friends in country music that are Nashville players, and they play on the road. And on the road, they're given their parts, they're given their tones, they're given their equipment, and you play it like this, and there's no variation.
Of course.
And so it's nice to hear that someone as huge as Beyonce, I mean, arguably she's the biggest star.
She is.
Gives you that kind of responsibility and says, just make it pretty.
Well, it wasn't like that for everybody.
No.
Believe me, as the band leader, musical director, if you're the drummer, you're playing what's on the record.
Yep.
If you're the keyboard player, you're playing what's on the record. For the horn section and the guitar, because there's really no horns or guitar in the music, we made up our own parts.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I know you do some home recording and recording with artists from around the world. What have been some of your favorite projects that you've had to play on since you've been off the road?
Gosh, there's being a yoga teacher, it's such opposite ends of the pole, you know.
Is it more like when you're home, or are you just out there teaching yoga and that's kind of your passion when you're
Yeah,
home?
when I'm home, I'm gardening. I want to hang out with my dog. I want to be kind of still and quiet as much as I can and enjoy that. Playing guitar is great, but when I'm home, I don't necessarily want to do it. But there have been some really cool projects that are completely opposite of what people would think I'd be doing. And it's a lot of world music, a lot of chanting music, a lot of more meditation music with some really pretty awesome types of beats. So there's been an artist that I've worked with named Gurunam Singh, producing some tracks, and I'm actually getting ready to produce some more tracks for him that I really enjoyed. And There's a project that I recently started working on. I'm not sure how much I should say about it, but I'm going to say it.
Why wouldn't you?
I'm going to say it.
Nobody watches us here that much, do they?
Yeah.
I hope they do, but they should.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Well, you know, the past couple of months, I've been working remotely on a project with Sheila E.
Oh, you got me now.
Patrice Rushen.
Oh, man.
Right? And Kim, I think her name's Kim Richards, who played bass with Prince.
Oh, yeah.
All right? So it started out with me just playing guitar for this solo artist, this, you know, new jazz type of funk artist. And then I was recording songs in my studio and sending them to her. Then she started flying me to LA to play in her studio. And now we're going to do a live show together in LA coming up at the end of August. And I mean, whoa, Patrice Rushen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Sheila E. and Kim Richards. Have you heard her play the bass?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be amazing.
I'm pretty stoked about that.
It's so funny because I never got to acknowledge, because our show, we air it bi-weekly and there's editing and we don't really get to respond to things in real time, but the passing of Prince really had a huge effect, not on just the music world. It affected me deeply because I watched him since I was a little kid. He was my guitar hero, you know, Let's Go Crazy and all that. And then I got to see him play and Chaka Khan opened and she was still in her prime.
Whoa.
And it was just like, you know, and then now you're working with his bass player, you're working with Sheila E.
Whoa.
He's got his fingerprints all over the world, literally, musically speaking. I mean, that's pretty cool that you get to share that space.
You just kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how everybody's all interrelated because you're very much into that. When you look at how everybody's interrelated and how everybody meets, I mean, it's just kind of mind-boggling how everybody's connected. I think I told you at the beginning before we were recording that Jennifer Batten was in here, and I got to witness her guitar wizardry, and she played with Michael Jackson. And I've been trying to meet her for a couple of years. Finally get to meet her, and then an hour after that, I get a text saying, "You're interviewing BB McGill."
Wow.
So here I am, like, this is just bizarre.
It's awesome, though. We
So this
are
is cool.
very connected,
This is cool.
and that's a great reminder. Wow, I'm playing with Sheila E. and two people that played with Prince.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
You just blow it up.
Yeah, rip it up.
Well, I'm very flattered that you came out here today. We're very excited to have you here. I think one of the things we want to end on is you are doing yoga and you're teaching yoga. Where can they find you?
Wow, I'm so grateful to be making this transition from mainstream pop world to yoga teacher internationally. You know, to start my career all over, it's like going from here to here, and now it's definitely making its way up. I've just been teaching in Sweden for like 150 people in my class. I taught 2 weeks ago in New York. There was 800 people in my class on the Bryant Park lawn. I'm getting ready to go to Borneo, Malaysia. I've got a retreat coming up in Bali. I've got another public speaking event in Bali, Cuba, Switzerland.
Wow.
Some really great things coming up in the United States. So if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, I'm very active and approachable on Facebook, BB McGill, Facebook/BB McGill. And also please go and sign up for my newsletter, Yoga BB, YOGABIBI.com.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you very much,
Yeah,
BB.
thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rocket.
Hey, little guy, you've been sleeping.
So thank you all for watching. Portland Metro Records presents Off the Record. Thank you, BB McGill. Thank you, Rocket, and be good to each other. Awesome.
Yay!
Pressure, doing last round competition, better catch up. Never slay opponents and I spare none. Call a corner, put them back together, leave them all set, but they ain't on my level. Gotta be careful, wordplay clever, hell raising when I'm trailblazing. Winning on the road and it feels amazing. But when I come home, everybody's favorite. Get love from the city when they start parading. Celebration, they know the winner. We get things popping in the motor center. 5 on the clock, got 4 defenders. DL with a shot when I go to finish. History in the making, behold and witness. Victory is mine, I'ma go the distance. And anyone dare try to comb against it. Poke holes in your whole offensive. My coalition, they're blazing.